Hi, I'm David with Sugar House Woolworks. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to pick a fleece, some things to look for, some things to ask, and whether or not you really want to deal with the hassle of processing a fleece. Okay, so here we have a Targhee Hogget fleece off of a one-year-old ewe, and we're going to go through and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the issues here. The first thing that you need to be aware of when you're picking out a fleece is it clean? Is it dirty? Does it have any bugs? And by bugs I mean lice. You can wash keds out. Keds are a sheep tick. If you don't like insects at all or arachnids, make sure to ask about keds. But it's not going to hurt. The keds don't actually hurt the wool. So they're not that big of an issue. Most of the time, by the time you get the fleece, the keds are going to be dead and they float. So when you're going through and you're washing, they'll come out. So as you can see, I'm going through and I'm pointing out right where my finger is, there is a little piece of VM that comes off of a cedar tree. And you see that a lot in these high desert sheep that graze in the mountains over the winter. For the most part, that's the only thing for significant VM that I'm finding in these sheep that the fleece that I got from this farmer down in southern Utah. And I've got Targhee and I've got Rambouillet fleece that look this good. So for the most part, this fleece looks really good. Now when you're going through and you're looking at these types of fleece, you want to make sure that you're asking about the bugs. You're asking about kemp and medullated fiber. A kemp is typically short, coarse fibers. They're basically like guard hairs in sheep's wool, and they're really nasty. You don't want to be spinning a whole lot of kemp. Typically, a lot of sheep, you'll find a lot of kemp in the top knots and the cheeks, and then you'll find it sometimes in the bellies, and frequently, if it's a bad fleece, you'll find it in the breech. So you want to make sure that you're not paying for hair that really isn't spinnable. You can spin kemp, but it's miserable. It's disgusting. You don't want it. So ask about kemp. Ask about medullated fibers. Medullated fibers are basically like guard hair. You don't want to have a whole lot of guard hair in your sheep's fleece. You'll see a lot of it in other animals, particularly in Angora rabbits and goats and camelids. You'll see a lot of medullated type fibers that aren't necessarily a lot of fun to spin, but isn't as egregious as on a sheep's fleece. On a sheep's fleece, a lot of medullated fiber and kemp is a bad thing. So as I'm going through this fleece, notice the tips on this fleece. They're really tippy. The fleece isn't flat. The top isn't flat, and that's indicative of a hogget fleece. So when you're going through and you're looking for fleece, buy the youngest possible animal that you can afford. And I'm serious. It makes a huge difference to buy hogget fleeces and second and third year fleeces as opposed to these fleeces on these ewes that have been, 8 years, 7, 8 years. Makes a huge difference. So here I'm showing you a little bit on the lock structure. That's one thing you really want to look for on a good sheep's fleece is good lock structure, regardless of whether or not it's a fine wool sheep with the short staple length, medium grade wool, or a long wool. You want nice confirmed lock structure on most of the fleece. Now you'll lose your lock structure on across the back, right across the spine. You'll lose some of that. And you'll lose some of it down right at the belly. If the fleece isn't properly skirted, you'll see belly wool on your fleece. And if it's a bad sheep, you'll see belly wool creeping up onto the sides that you can't really skirt out easily. Now here I'm showing you a second. I haven't gone through and done the second skirting on this fleece yet. You want to ask about seconds. You don't want them in your fleece. You don't want to have to deal with them. Now, pulling off all of the seconds on a fleece for skirting it, for someone trying to sell it like I'm doing, or another vendor, It's really hard to get all the seconds. We can eliminate most of them, but we can't find all of them most of the time. It's just not economically viable for us, and it's a royal pain to go through and look for them anyway. And I made sure to try and get the shearers when they were going through shearing these animals to avoid the second cuts as much as possible. But they did do 1,200 sheep in a day, so they were zipping right along. So when we're going through and we're talking about fleeces, one thing we need to talk about a little bit is the amount of VM that you're willing to put up with. Now, personally, as long as the wool is in good quality, going through and processing a relatively dirty fleece as far as VM goes isn't too terribly bad if you have a good set of combs. And you can save quite a bit of money if you go for some of the dirtier fleeces than if you go for some of the nice fleeces that have been coated. The only real advantage to going with a coated fleece over an uncoated fleece and a uncoated fleece that's super dirty over one that's relatively clean is that you're able to do some projects with those coated fleeces you can't do with ones with a lot of VM, like full lock felting. You're not going to want to do with fleeces with heavy VM, because you want to be able to felt the base of the fiber and have the top nice and plushy. You can't do that if the fleece is dirty. So you can save a lot of money if you go with some of the dirtier fleeces. It does take a little bit more work, but you can end up still end up with a yarn and a roving that you're happy with, and all you need really for that is a good set of combs. So if you don't have a good set of combs, I would recommend that you get some. For the most part, you absolutely do not want to be carding a dirty fleece. At least at home. You can't get enough of all of the VM out. It's much easier to get the VM out by combing. Now you can card it. Some people do it. I personally wouldn't because I'm lazy. So I would much rather go through to use combs, get all the junk out, and have a fun time with it. I mean, it's satisfying to watch a bunch of garbage fall out of a fleece when you're going through and you're combing it. It's very satisfying. So invest in a good set of combs if you don't have them and you want to do some processing of your own fleece. So now time for a little bit of a plug. This fleece, as well as several other fleeces from the Hoggets, are for sale, as well as I've got some relatively dirty Rambouillet that's still good quality. I've got some fairly clean Rambouillet from this same farm that this fleece is from. I've got some Targhee Suffolk cross fleeces. I've even got a Surrey fleece and a Lincoln fleece from the farmer that I'm trying to sell for them because they were having a hard time with it. So what I encourage you to do if you're watching this video is to go through and support local farmers, learn about the craft from the ground up, and process a fleece at least once. It's not for everyone. I'm going to admit that straight up. Some people really, really hate to process fleece. Some people really love it. There's not a whole lot in between. But I encourage you to go through, find some wool or fleece from somebody. It doesn't even have to be me. And process some and get an appreciation for the work that our ancestors went through to make our clothing, even more so than you already do, because if you're watching this video, you're probably already a fiber artist and probably already spin and have an appreciation for that. But the processing that they had to go through is intense, and it's something worth learning. It's a fantastic little process. So I encourage you to find some wool, do a little bit of processing yourself. If you don't have combs, or if this is the first time you're ever buying a fleece, buy one that is relatively clean, because if you're gonna hate it if you have to go through and do a really dirty, dirty, dirty fleece. It's no fun doing it the first time. So you all have a great day. If you have any questions, feel free to pick my brain either on Facebook, on Ravelry, although I'm not on there as much as Facebook. You can get on and you can pick my brain anytime you want. I spend quite a bit of time answering people's questions anyway. And if you've requested something from me and you don't hear back from me for a while, I have 2 chronic illnesses that make things a little difficult. But if it's on Facebook, if the correspondence is on Facebook on a post, there's a likelihood that the post was deleted because Facebook is currently drunk. So keep on it. If you want something from me, if I don't respond to you back within 5 or 6 hours, there's something wrong with Facebook or I'm dead. So you guys have a great day. I hope you guys can find some fleece that you're happy with. I'm always able to find fleece. I've got several farmers that come to me looking for resources and selling their fleece, so I can usually find you pretty much whatever you want. If I can't find it, I know somebody who can, and I'll direct you to her, and she can literally find you anything. If you want wolf blended with Wanako, she's your lady. So, and I can get you her information if that's something that you're interested in, and she loves processing fleece. She's a fleece processing nut. Most of the products that she has, she already has processed herself and they're ready to spin, but she can find you anything. So I think I've rambled on long enough. You guys have a great day. Happy spinning, happy processing, happy knitting. Whatever you're doing, have fun, because if it's not fun, why the heck do you do it? Peace.